Hello, in this demonstration, I'm going to combine the technique of dry brushing with mixed media. Here is a nice way to practice that I came upon accidentally. So I was making some colored collage papers on book pages, and as I was brushing the paint on, I got dry brush pattern on the background surface paper. I'm going to do this intentionally. So dry brushing is exactly what it sounds like. You're using a brush that is dry. And I'm going to whisk it across the surface. Now, what I was doing making the papers, I had a lot more paint, and then I was coming across the edge, and I'm getting all this dry brush texture. So I'm not going to make collage paper right now. I'm going to focus on these dry brush marks. Now, it's good to test this off to the side before going to your painting because you don't want it to be too globby. So I'll demonstrate too globby. Here I'm trying to do dry brush and it's real thick. So you don't want too much paint on there, and you kind of have to test it on a sheet of paper so it's to your liking. Okay, so then when I move that, I got this interesting frame shape. So I'm going to keep doing this with some other colors to show you dry brush and to show you kind of an interesting layered dry brush piece. Right now I'm going to take another sheet of collage paper. I'm going to get a different color. I'm working with these neon Liquetex acrylic gouaches, and I'm using big brushes. And I'm going to go to this blue. Dry brushing also creates great textural marks that you can make collage paper with if you want. Kind of looks like animal fur. Okay, and I'm going to do one more color, which is going to be sort of this neon violet. And I could have fun just doing portions. I like playing with the negative white shape spaces here. Okay, so that's the basic dry brushing technique. Now I'm going to show you the next thing I came up with is what if you have some low level dimension in your work, or you could intentionally create that. So what I did was I glued some cardboard with gel medium to another piece of cardboard. Then I gessoed it. You could skip the gesso, but I chose to do that. I think it'll show up a little bit better. And then I repeat the same process. So if I go across that, I'm going to pick up all the texture of the cardboard plus that edge, which I like. So it feels it's a little bit sculptural. Now, I didn't do it because I want to focus just on dry brush, but if I'd put some drawing under here or a light wash and then did the dry brush, that would add another layer of color that would show through. So I'm just going to go along these edges here and then maybe paint that background blue using the dry brush technique. I can also do a little bit of scrubbing. I think that's called scumbling, a little bit of scrubbing to get that dry brush to fill in those areas a little bit more. Gonna hit those edges again. Allowing some of the paint to mix right there on the surface. Wonder if I can do Sgrafitto. Let me try it. Yep, I can do Sgrafitto through some of that dry brush paint. It's wet enough. Okay, now I'm going to add the pink, the neon pink. So building up thin layers of dry brush paint. Some of it's mixing there, but the whole thing is really to pick up on the texture of the surface below. And in the next painting, it will be to pick up on some of the texture of the palette knife work I did and the Sgrafitto from the previous study. So here is that study that I did in last week's demo of painting with the palette knife. And I think I'll use up some of these colors, and then I think I'll bring in some other colors that I have off to the side. So again, on a previously done painting, I'm dry brushing so I can see some of the layers below. I usually use a low, it's that low 45-degree angle. I can do some scrubbing. I'm going to scrub over this area to see if it's got some gel medium on there. So I think some of that transparency will come through. If I had a paper towel, I'd rub it, but I'm using my finger, so it's coming through. So I'm whisking across and I'm picking up the edges of the texture from my palette knife. But those colors from below are still showing through. And with this darker paint, I'm running it around the edge here for more contrast. So I focus on, I'm going to call a little window of drawings below. Okay, one other color. I'm out of that pink, so I'm going to go to this other palette that I had. Maybe I'll bring in some of the orange and I don't know, we'll see. Okay, I'm going to go to smaller brushes now. I haven't used a round brush, so I'm going to try that. I'm going to pick up this other green here. Again, dry brush. So it's low 45, or sometimes I go hold it to the side and kind of scrub across. I'm going to go for some orange down here, see how that interacts with the green. A little bit more, and then I'll put some, yeah, I'm going to end on yellow here. Going to go slightly bigger brush, round brush. I'm not loving that as much, so what I can do is if I don't like it, I can just keep dry brushing it over it, push it back a little bit, which I think I will do. Blending right there on the surface. And this can go on for quite some time until I like what I see. Going back to my darker blue. If I had a rag, I'd be probably rubbing some of this out. But I think you get the basic idea of dry brushing with mixed media.